Before we begin, I'd like to establish how this video will be formatted. First, I will be taking about 3 scenes in which I believe the plot hole in the story or inconsistent writing is shown, or parts that were missing. Second, I will then explain why I believe that the scene or context is bad for the story. And lastly, I will then add my own take on how I would go about fixing the story. Happy with those rules? Let's swing into it. Probably one of the most argued scenes in the whole game is the scene where Peter and character insertion of Agent Venom are fighting against Kraven to rescue Dr. Connors from becoming the Lizard, which was a great success. It starts off with Peter fighting off Kraven's goons to get to him after the Lizard was transformed, but then getting parried and stabbed in the side by Kraven's knife thingy. And Kraven does a little wiggle and rips half of his knife out of Peter's side, which I'm guessing is to show how awesomely strong Peter is, which in itself already doesn't make any sense, as in the previous game, Peter literally impaled himself with Otto's arms and had enough strength to then do a nosedive and have a full conversation with Octavius. So he would have absolutely zero reason and zero issue to have a little knife in his tummy. Now, I remember back then some people were saying, "Oh, it had poison in the end, so therefore it numbed him inside, he couldn't do anything." Peter got hit with Scorpion's poison twice, the first time being the original formula, but the second time being a completely different one, and he tanked it flawlessly. The venom inside Scorpion's poison was strong enough to cause hallucinations and mental problems within Peter, and the fact he managed to cure but not also withstand the knife stab is insane plot armor. Another thing also is that his spider sense didn't go off at all, which is something that's very inconsistent with the whole game. And when it does actually go off, it's just useless. He doesn't even dodge the thing anyways. Now, I do get that the whole reason this was done to set up the reason why Peter needs a symbiote, which, in my opinion, is a shit reason. My personal take on what I do to fix this is that first, extend the missions. The missions need to be extended in which Peter does not have the suit, and as a result, keep Agent Venom around, as much as I hate him. This way, it wouldn't feel like it was forced, as like 2 missions ago, we just saw Agent Venom, so we need time for that to marinate and breathe. The second change I'd like to add is how Peter actually gets the symbiote. A simple stab just isn't going to cut it. So I think either Peter gets a symbiote later down the line, let's say 2 or 3 missions later, but still face a near-death experience, only this time not from a stab wound, but something greater, perhaps a trap set by Kraven, as Kraven is still a fresh threat in both Peter and Miles' eyes. Harry should still give the symbiote to Peter. I think that would work, even though I'm not a big fan of Agent Venom, but it's a simple tweak which I think would help show the need in the symbiote for Peter. Peter spends a grand total of 6 missions in the symbiote suit, which does sound like a lot until you realize that was 3 days! And if we calculate how long each mission was, well, 20 hours roughly for the full main story and 31 missions, that's 20 divided by 31, which is 0.64, and that in hours is 38 minutes, which means, drumroll please, Peter spent a whole 3 hours in the symbiote suit in gameplay time. That is 15% of the game spent playing as Peter in the symbiote suit, and this isn't even accounting for the boss fight against him. The reason why this is such a big mistake is, first of all, the game is centered around the symbiote arc, so having the main character not be affiliated with said symbiote is a crime in itself. And second of all, it does a poor job in showing why Peter actually feeds off the suit instead of a "I want to save people more." It should have explored how it made him a better Spider-Man, but slowly showing him doing good around the city instead of the occasional dialogue where he states he did good. What I do to fix the issue is simply extend how long you spend in the suit, and in general, the whole game. I do understand the game was rushed and that the Insomniac games were rushed by Sony, but if this wasn't the case, I'd expect the game to be roughly about 40 hours or so. Considering the game has both Spider-Man and the first Spider-Man game had the same runtime being 20 hours, it would make sense that double the men means double the time. The whole story of Spider-Man 2 is the fact that Kraven wants a formidable opponent to grant him a warrior's death, as he has stage 4 cancer and he believes that dying to the cancer is a sign of weakness, which is a fire motive. I have no complaints with Kraven in this game, except for the fact he off-screened every member of the Sinister Six, with the sole exception of Scorpion and Lee, and he didn't even kill Lee. This is probably the biggest complaint I have with the game, and the fact that we don't get to see the Sinister Six fight against Kraven, because we know from audio recordings that Kraven did in fact beat all of them with the sole exception of Scorpion and Lee, and document them. Like how we did it with Electro using only gloves, which I believe is just complete nonsense, by the way. It's such a missed opportunity, as I think maybe seeing a couple of the members being taken down in front of Peter, or in real time as him while you're playing a mission, would increase Peter's emotional stability and vulnerability, and cause him to want the symbiote more, as it would prevent the villains from dying. Which Peter is very strong about, as he still believes ending villains and criminals in general is no better than what they do to the public. And having that moral conflict between him would have been such a good way to introduce the symbiote. How would I fix this? Implement 2 or 3 missions dedicated to tracking or finding Electro, Rhino, and Shocker. Specifically Shocker, as it says from the recordings that Shocker didn't want to die and essentially pleaded for mercy. And with Peter's track record with Shocker from the first game, I say it would work well with their relationship between hero and villain, showing that Shocker is quite vulnerable sometimes. I think it will be a nice change to see like a villain hunting down a villain. Electro and Rhino because, well, who wouldn't want to see those two, right? Peter and Miles taking their masks off randomly in public, inconsistent power scaling, more taking masks off, saying names in public, zero motivation and reasoning, wasting huge characters. Did I mention more taking masks off? Overall, Spider-Man 2 has really bad story flaws, which, well, when I was playing the game for the first time, I had no clue about. But now, after 3 years later, it's pretty crystal clear that the game has some issues. But hey, maybe they'll fix it in Spider-Man 3 whenever that's coming out. But until then, consider subscribing and liking. Trust me, I've studied a lot trying to make this video, so they take a toll on my head sometimes.